Take a look at this man. He's just placed a black garbage bag under a footbridge in a quiet park. Inside that bag are the United States' most guarded secrets, the names of active American spies, mission details, and more. And he's just sold them to Russia for cash. But this man isn't a Russian agent. He is Robert Hanssen, a senior FBI boss, and his literal job is to catch spies. And in a few seconds, a team of FBI agents will arrest him. For 22 years, he fooled them all, and he did it all under the nose of a team of 300 FBI agents who were trying to catch him. I'm going to show you exactly how he pulled it off, how the FBI's most devout Catholic became their most devastating traitor, and the single mistake that he made that brought him down.
Betrayal was at the very core of his soul.
This FBI agent gave away more secrets than any spy in the history of the Bureau.
Lived a life of treachery and betrayal, and he betrayed everyone.
I want to take you back to this moment in Robert Hanssen's childhood, a moment which will change his life forever. He is being spun around in circles by his father, around and around and around, but it's no fun game. His father is punishing him, spinning him around till he feels sick and vomits on the floor. This is just one type of abuse Howard Hanssen subjected his son to. As an only child, there was no escape. A psychiatrist who spent over 100 hours with Robert Hanssen put it simply, he felt belittled and damaged by his father. So Robert Hanssen did what a lot of broken kids do. He escaped into fiction. And one character in particular got its hooks into him. The spy who seduces beautiful women, outsmarts governments, and answers to no one. For a kid who felt powerless, Bond was everything. Years later, he'd carry the exact same gun Bond did, a Walther PPK. But we'll get to that. It was during his time at Knox College while he was studying, amongst the humiliation and the abuse, that Robert Hanssen's life changed forever. He meets Bernadette Walk. Her friends call her Bonnie. They marry 1 year after meeting. Meanwhile, Hanssen finishes his studies with an MBA in accounting and information systems. He's a tech nerd, and he's early to computers in a way that almost nobody else is in the 1970s. And that skill will become his most dangerous weapon. So, now it's January 1976, and against all logic, Robert Hanssen joins the Chicago Police Department. But Hanssen wasn't planning on staying with the Chicago PD. He's thinking of something bigger, like James Bond bigger. A few years later, Robert Hanssen leaves the Chicago PD and is sworn into office with the FBI, taking an oath to protect the country and its secrets. An oath he would destroy within 3 months. Hanssen's first post within the FBI is in Gary, Indiana, a field office investigating white-collar crime. Low stakes. But within 3 years, he's transferred to the New York City field office, the Soviet counterintelligence division, the big leagues. New York City is much more expensive than Indiana. Hanssen and Bonnie already have 3 children at this point, and Hanssen's salary is modest. He starts to feel the pinch. His other issue is his supervisors see him as technically sharp, but not field agent material, so they stick him behind a desk. The James Bond fantasy will have to wait. But what they didn't realize is they gave him something far more dangerous than a gun. They gave him a computer. His job was to help build a counterintelligence database for the division. To most agents, this was grunt work, the kind of thing that you give to agents who can't hack it in the field. But Hanssen saw something else entirely. Field agents only knew about their specific targets, their one case, but Hanssen, as the admin building the system, could see everything. Every name, every operation, the entire espionage landscape in New York laid out in front of him like a chessboard. He knew who the Soviet spies were, and critically, he learned who the American sources were inside the Soviet ranks. And it took him just 3 months to sell the biggest one of them out. In 1979, Robert Hanssen walks into the Amtorg Trading Corporation on the east side of Manhattan. On the surface, Amtorg is a Soviet trade office, handling imports and exports. but in reality, it's a front for the GRU, who were the Soviet Union's military intelligence. Hanssen knows that to be taken seriously, he has to come through the door with something valuable, something that proves he's the real deal. So he gives them the crown jewel. Dmitry Polyakov, codename Top Hat, the highest ranking Soviet military intelligence officer ever to spy for the West, America's most valuable asset inside Moscow, a man who had been secretly feeding the United States information for 17 years. Hanssen gave him up. Polyakov wouldn't be dealt with for another 9 years, but we'll get to that later. In this first spying period, Hanssen made contact with the Soviets 3 more times. He was sending a shopping list of human targets, a list of known and suspected Soviet intelligence officers. For all of this, the GRU paid Hanssen around $30,000. That's it, 30 grand for the highest ranking Soviet asset the West ever had. Most people who cover this story focus on the money as most of his motivation, and I believe there was some of that, but I also think there was more. Hanssen wanted to play spy. He wanted that James Bond life, the fantasy. Plus, he had an ego that was so big, he thought he could outfool everyone. But I guess he wasn't that smart. His first period of spying was cut short, and not by the FBI, by Bonnie. It's 1980. Bonnie walks down to the basement and finds Hanssen hunched over a typewriter. Hanssen tries to hide the paper, but she's already seen it. A letter addressed to the Soviets. He cracks. He tells her he's been in contact with the GRU. She demands they see a priest. Bonnie and Robert were members of the Opus Dei, a deeply conservative sect of the Catholic Church. So, they drive to New York and see Father Robert Buccarelli, and Hanssen confesses. What happens next is crazy. The priest tells him to stop, donate the money to charity, and pray. He never takes this information to the authorities. Hanssen does stop though. He takes his advice and doesn't spy for the next 5 long years. He cuts off all communications with the Soviets. But his compulsions, his ego to control and manipulate the situation, they don't go away. And this next part of the story is perhaps the most disturbing. Hanssen had a best friend from college, Jack. Jack had taken a different path. He'd enlisted in the army and was fighting abroad. Hanssen decided to send him a gift. While Jack was deployed, Hanssen photographed Bonnie naked and mailed the pictures to him.
Will you say my name? But thinking of her.
Jack wrote back confused, uncomfortable, but Hanssen told him to enjoy the gift. And that was just the beginning. Later, when Jack was back from deployment, he came to visit and stay the night. Hanssen had wired a hidden camera in his own bedroom and connected it to the TV in the guest room where Jack was staying. That night, while Hanssen was intimate with Bonnie in their bed, Jack watched from down the hall. Hanssen had told him to turn on the TV and enjoy the show. It's now 1985, 5 years of silence, but the itch never left. Hanssen's career has moved him from New York to FBI headquarters in Washington, and then back to New York. He's now supervising a Soviet counterintelligence squad, the team responsible for catching people exactly like him. And in 1985, it's a dangerous year to be sitting in that chair. 11 Americans are charged with espionage that year. Double agents are falling like dominoes. The press calls it the year of the spy. The FBI and the CIA are under intense pressure. How did so many traitors slip through? They have no idea that the biggest one is sitting in their own building, watching it all unfold, taking notes. On October 1st, 1985, Hanssen mails a letter, but this time he doesn't go to the GRU. He goes straight to the KGB, specifically to a man named Viktor Cherkashin, the KGB's chief of counterintelligence at the Soviet embassy in Washington. Cherkashin is the most dangerous intelligence officer in the city, and in a few months, he'll be running not one, but 2 American moles at the same time. The message is short, professional, and chilling. Hanssen tells Cherkashin he will send a box of documents containing the most sensitive and highly compartmented projects of US intelligence community. And for it, he wants $100,000 in cash. Then, he gives them something immediately. 3 names: Boris Yeltsin, codename Twine; Valery Martinov, codename Pimenta; and Sergei Motorin, codename Megas. All 3 are KGB officers secretly working for the Americans. What Hanssen doesn't know and won't for years is that all 3 have already been compromised by another mole, a CIA officer named Aldrich Ames, who started selling secrets to the same KGB office just months earlier. Hanssen's letter is a death sentence on top of a death sentence. Martinov and Motorin are recalled back to Russia. They are both given a bullet in the back of the head. That's the price you pay to be a traitor in Russia. Yeltsin gets 15 years in a Siberian labor camp. And remember Dmitry Polyakov, Top Hat, the man Hanssen gave up in 1979? He's finally arrested in 1986. I actually have the footage of him being arrested. It's chilling. He's tried in secret, and on March 15th, 1988, he's executed by firing squad. That first envelope Hanssen walked into the Amtorg with all those years ago, it just caught up with him. The KGB pays Hanssen $50,000 for this drop, half what he asked for. But here's what separates him from most spies. In 22 years, Hanssen never met his handlers, not once. From the very beginning, he told the KGB he would never meet them face to face. Instead, he builds an entire communication network designed so that nobody would ever see him. Let me show you how it works. The backbone is a series of dead drops scattered across parks and locations near his home. All the drop locations were within 10 minutes drive of his house. It's unusual for a spy to commence his business so close to his home, but this was actually brilliant because he picked areas he was often close to, areas that he jogged in and walked his dog in, places where he wouldn't look out of place, but he could be surveilling and see if anything else was wrong or people were looking for him. And the signaling system is dead simple, but brilliant. A strip of white adhesive tape on a park sign. It had 3 stages. Hanssen would stand it up vertically after he dropped a package. Once the Russians had collected the drop, they would lay the tape down horizontally to signal it had been taken and payment was waiting. Then, Hanssen would prop it back up to its original position once he collected payment. For the documents, Hanssen started with paper drops, but by 1988 he had graduated to floppy disks, like this one, loaded with classified files. He would stuff a whole bunch of these into a black garbage bag, his trademark, and then bring it to one of the drop sites, leaving it under a bridge or under a rock. Every letter he writes is signed Ramon Garcia, a fake name chosen to deliberately make the KGB believe they're running a rogue CIA officer, not FBI. It works. For 22 years, the Russians had no idea who he was. But Hanssen did make one mistake. One big mistake. He told his KGB handlers that if he was to go dark, they could always recommence communication with him by placing an ad in the Washington Times, a paper that he read every day. I don't think anyone has ever shown this publicly before, but I went into the archives and I found the actual ad that the KGB had in 1986 in the Washington Times. It's just a standard ad for a car sale. It reads, Dodge 71 Diplomat needs engine work, $1,000. Phone 703-451-9798. Hanssen called this number, and I love this because this is a secret hiding in plain sight. And when he called, he didn't know that the KGB was recording his voice, the only ever voice recording of him in history. And that voice recording would come back to haunt him many years later. But despite the year of the spy and 11 US traders being charged with espionage, there are still leaks in the Bureau. So the FBI assigns Hanssen to study all known and suspected penetrations of the Bureau, a comprehensive report on every mole, every leak, every vulnerability. They ask Hanssen to find the traitor, but he's hunting for himself. And by now, the damage he's done is staggering. Over 6,000 pages of classified documents, 26 diskettes handed over. The identities of dozens of intelligence sources burned. And for all of it, the Soviets paid him roughly $600,000 in cash and diamonds, plus $800,000 deposited in a Moscow bank account, an escape fund he asked them to set up, just in case. Hanssen finishes his report. It's a comprehensive one, and he points the blame towards a mole inside the CIA. He does this to deflect the heat somewhere else, but by sheer luck, he was actually right. There was a mole in the CIA selling secrets, a mole we mentioned, Aldrich Ames, and coincidentally, Aldrich Ames also sold out some of the exact same agents that Hanssen did. This incredible coincidence meant that when Ames was finally caught and confessed, the FBI and the CIA thought the job was done. How wrong they were. Then, finally some luck for the FBI. On December 25th, 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. The empire that Hanssen has been selling secrets to simply ceases to exist. Hanssen goes dark for the second time. He's fearful that any high-level defector could blow his cover, but he couldn't keep away forever. By the late 90s, the money he had earned from the KGB was running out. So in 1999, Hanssen made the call. He went back one last time. The KGB was no more, so he sent the SVR, the KGB's successor, a letter left at a dead drop with a name they would remember, Ramon Garcia. Most of the officers that worked at the SVR were ex-KGB officers, so they still had the files on Ramon Garcia, and they still had a list of all the dead drop sites, which they did still check occasionally. A signal appears at one of the old sites, white tape down. Hanssen sees it and checks the drop site. There is $50,000 in cash left for him. He's back in. At the same time, the FBI launches Operation Grey Suit. Their mission? Find the mole. And their top suspect is a CIA veteran named Brian Kelly. But by spring 2000, they've hit a wall. They couldn't prove that Kelly was the mole, because he wasn't. Then, the break they've been waiting for. A retired KGB officer turns up at the Russian mission to the United Nations in New York, and he's got a proposal. He says he has a file, the complete operational file on a mole codename B, and he wants $7 million for it. The FBI and Operation Grey Suit is so desperate they actually pay, and the file has exactly what they need. Inside, there are years of correspondence, paper and computer disks and black garbage bags. Hanssen wrapped his secrets in with his fingerprints still on them. The FBI immediately realized Kelly is not the mole. There's too much in here he didn't have access to. Then they see it. One audio tape. Inside a secure room at FBI headquarters, senior officials gather to listen. It's a call from a man answering a classified ad about a Dodge diplomat. Hello, my name is Ramon Garcia. I'm interested in the Dodge. The voice is familiar. They play the tape again. One agent goes white. I know that voice. That's Bob Hanssen. Not CIA, not NSA, he was FBI all along. 22 years in the building and he fooled everyone. But they can't arrest him yet. If they really want the case to stick, they need to catch him in the act. FBI Director Louis Freeh authorizes all resources to catch this bastard. An army of 300 agents are deployed. A special surveillance group of agents known as Ghosts follow Hanssen wherever he goes. They're at his house, at his work, digging through his trash every single night. A tech squad drills holes in the walls at FBI headquarters and bugs Hanssen's office with cameras and microphones. The FBI gives him a fake promotion to a new role and builds an entire fake unit around him, including a young agent named Eric O'Neill. He's just 26 years old. So the FBI gives him an assignment: work on Hanssen's team underneath him and watch everything. Try and find us the smoking gun that we need. So O'Neill plays his part. He watches and watches, and one day he notices something. Hanssen carries a Palm 3 everywhere, a digital planner. The FBI believes it contains the evidence that they need, but he never lets it out of his sight. How are they going to get it? O'Neill has an idea. He knows Hanssen's ego. He knows the guy that secretly wanted to be a spy, that's carrying around the Walther PPK just like James Bond, but actually has never left the office in his whole career. So O'Neill and another agent cook something up. The agent strolls into Hanssen's office one afternoon. $20 says I outshoot you right now down at the range. Hanssen can't say no. A man like that never turns down a chance to prove himself. O'Neill watches Hanssen leave, counts to 10, and then grabs the Palm 3. His hands are shaking. He walks, doesn't run, to the tech team 2 floors up. They plug it in. A progress bar crawls across the screen. 40%, 60. Hanssen is at the shooting range, which is downstairs in the basement of FBI headquarters. How long does a shooting match take? 80%, 90. Back at the range, Hanssen is on his last rounds. 99, done. The tech team has cracked it. O'Neill takes the Palm 3 and races back to the office. He carefully places it back on Hanssen's desk, and Hanssen never notices. Contained within the Palm 3 is a mountain of evidence, but the important part is Hanssen is about to make another drop, and he plans it to be his final drop ever. February 18, 2001, a Sunday. Jack has been visiting all weekend. They've tossed the frisbee in the yard and talked about religion. Then it's time for him to go. Hanssen drives him to the airport and drops him off. But instead of heading home, he drives to Foxstone Park, one of his drop sites. He's carrying a package wrapped in a black garbage bag. His signature. Classified documents for the SVR. One last drop under the footbridge, 5 minutes from his house. He tapes the package beneath the bridge, straightens up and starts walking to his car. Then a swarm of FBI agents rush him. Hanssen sees them coming, but he doesn't run. He doesn't reach for the Walther PPK in his waistband. He looks at the agents closing in and says, "What took you so long?" They cuff him right there on the footbridge, the same bridge he could see from his back porch. Robert Hanssen receives 15 life sentences without the possibility of parole after he confesses guilty in 2001 to 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy. No death penalty in exchange for his cooperation. They send him to ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. 23 hours a day in a concrete cell. The man who spent 22 years watching everyone had nothing left to look at but a wall. On June 5th, 2023, Robert Hanssen died in that cell. He was 79. In the end, he didn't go out like Bond. No shootout, no martini, no clever escape. He went out like a man in a box, alone. But Hanssen wasn't the only spy hiding in American intelligence. Katrina Leung seduced not one, but 2 senior FBI agents. For over 20 years, she remained undetected. And when they finally caught her, her case fell apart in the most humiliating way possible. You should watch that video of mine right now.